Welcome, my name is Judy Levine and I'm here at my studio called The Studios on Macintosh. Today we're going to be working with steampunk art, making necklaces, and you can take a look at some of the necklaces in my case. I put elements together of antique beads and found pendants. But for steampunk, I looked at machine parts, and right here in this one, I used a fuse box. And as the centerpiece for my necklace, I used cogs, screws, and we'll talk about how you hang it and secure it to your body. These are two different earrings, again using gears and with the additions of charms and beads. We're going to be working on steampunk jewelry today. Steampunk jewelry is made from old pieces of machinery. It kind of harks back to steam engines and the cogs that are used in that. And this necklace is an example of steampunk. It's the inside of an old watch. The hands of the watch are hanging down, and a zipper is used as the chain. When I worked on these necklaces, I used some fuse box, and here's some fuses that I worked with. I turned the fuse box upside down and used some screws, a background, and the earrings I worked with, I used different machine cogs glued together and kind of dressed them up using beads. So the basis is machine parts. When you look at this necklace, this was from an old machine that had some kind of a sieve. I shined it up. It turned out to be this beautiful brass with this design on it, and used a watch hand and cogs to make kind of a simply designed necklace, but very effective. So we have to find things to take apart. How about an old phone or an old watch that you might have? Machines that are kind of around your house, in your garage. The cogs are beautiful shaped. And they can be part of jewelry design. When I looked at these little pieces here, it's a set, it's a necklace. I added a little fuse to this piece and added some cogs and a charm at the end. I might add a watch face. I found this brass tab that says 4055, and I used it as a background on a bezel. So you can glue things to a background, just like I used this sieve for a background for this beautiful watch hand. And here's another sieve that can be the beginning of a jewelry piece. What do you need in order to put these things together? You can use a background. These are called bezels. And it already has a loop if you're using it for a necklace. If you're hanging things from the bottom, some of these backgrounds have 2 loops. You need, this bezel is a black bezel that I've added a watch face to, and then another piece of machinery that will be glued on the bottom. If I want things hanging from it, I can glue some cogs and then use a head pin to make a loop to glue some charms. A background may be watch hands. These are the pieces from inside of a piano that hit the keys to make the sounds. But they're brass, and that's the beauty part of some of the old machinery. They've been so beautifully crafted with texture and can be just simply taken apart. How do we get everything glued together? Handy E6000. These are some of my tools. I use a tweezer so I can pick up small things. I use a needle nose pliers to squeeze together things, and my mainstay is E6000 and a toothpick to just apply the glue. So really very simple tools, simple backgrounds, and if you want to bind things together, perhaps you want to use these as earrings. You can use a very thin wire and bind them together. Comes in color or metal. And how do you string them into a necklace? I use some rough chain because you're talking about machine parts. I use some ball chain that you might find on an old fan. Some old jewelry, just take it apart, use it for background, just for pieces, use the chain. This one has various sizes. There's also this suede material that you can use, like this one, and I strung cogs on it. Just put it on simply with a knot. And some kind of a polished leather that's hanging on this one. And you're working from rough machine parts to a more refined piece of jewelry. These earrings are two different backgrounds, two different shapes, but that sort of goes with steampunk. I added some beads and I added some charms so that it makes kind of a rough steampunk look, but in a more refined jewelry way. We're going to be working today with steampunk jewelry. What is steampunk anyway? It's art and fashion, kind of inspired by the Cultural Revolution, and it's like time stood still and steam engines still exist, and all the parts and cogs from that time are used. It's a little science fiction out of the 70s, a little Jules Verne, Around the World in 80 Days, and H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. Steampunk fashion is a little robotic, a little motorcycle, a little rough, but it has a refinedness to it. You can take a look at those boots. They're really quite high style, but there's machine parts added in. Steampunk sculpture is made from machine parts like this one, or this one. And what do you need in order to work with steampunk? You need some machine parts, and the old machines were all brass, so the parts are heavy and beautiful. You can work with small watch parts and gears, some flat gears. And what do you hold things together with? You can hold them together with jump rings, wire, E6000 glue, and pliers. And you need lots of imagination. You need a bezel or a background piece, an armature. You need findings like a background bezel or jump rings. You can use chain to hold things together and jump rings to hang things from that chain. These are a bunch of washers that are put together with jump rings, and they hold machine parts and charms. These washers are held onto a background with wire wrapping. Some of these cogs to form this necklace are just glued together, and some are held with jump rings. And the chain enables you to put it on. So there's a roughness to it because it's called steampunk, using machine parts, but the chain and everything put together is kind of refined. Again, these pieces that were shown before, it's a fuse box turned upside down, a background bezel and charms. The earrings are two different shapes, similar use of cogs and wheels. One has a bead hanging down, they're asymmetrical, and one has charms. This is symmetrical earrings. The cogs that are machine parts are just held together with jump rings. And then the finding, the earring backs, are put on top. These are machine parts glued together to form earrings or a pin, background of a pendant. These are machine parts that are put together with glue. I love that little airplane charm that's put on top, and the keys. This necklace is used with ribbon, and the background bezel is a heart shape, and the cogs are glued on, chains are added. So let your imagination soar, put some additions onto your bezel, and create that steampunk creation. Send your photos of your creations to Judy Levine at judylevine@verizon.net. The studio's on Macintosh, Sarasota, Florida.